The Geet Ruler episode number 98 explanation. As the lightning flashed across the horizon, while the bloody palm slowly dissipated away, Mu Chen stood tall in the skies, with the light of black lightning encasing his entire body. Looking coldly towards Shui Qianju, boundless energies rapidly condensed within his palms. After passing through his human body disaster, his lightning god's physique had clearly followed suit and progressed along with his cultivation, successfully promoting to the level of Penta-Rune lightning physique. Relying on this tyrannical physique of his, Mu Chen was now absolutely not afraid to cross hands with experts who had genuinely passed through their spirit disaster. That Shui Qianju before him possessed a level of strength that was even higher than normal spiritual energy disaster. However, he had yet to genuinely break through to realm of spirit disaster. Therefore, Mu Chen did not dread or fear him if they would genuinely start a duel. Who's this fellow that doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth, to actually dare to provoke our blood god clan? Shui Qianju's expression had turned completely dark from Mu Chen's previous statement. At this moment, a bloody light hid the skies and covered the earth as it gushed from his body, alongside a dense bloody flavor that had quietly radiated from within. Bloodthirsty rays of brilliance sparkled in the center of his palms as dangerous fluctuations started to radiate from them. While this happened, the expressions of the people from the Blood God clan standing behind him had also turned dark, while bloody light gushed from their bodies. Seeing that their opponent was about to take complete action, Luo Li's face had turned slightly cold. Tightly clenching her Luo God sword, a clear sword cry resounded, while fierce sword intent radiated from it. If you want to take action, you can't forget about us. I've heard about the fame of the Blood God clan. However, this isn't the Western heavenly world, so it's still not your turn to show your atrocious behavior to everyone. At this moment, Wen Qingxian had also elegantly walked forward. With a sweet smile and a clench of her hand, the gorgeous golden war spear appeared within. Although the tip of the spear had yet to be aimed towards Shui Qianju and his group of people, they were already about to discern dangerous fluctuations radiating from the former's body. Noticing this, Xu Huang, Pinner, Le and the rest all entered their combat-ready states as they vigilantly stared towards Shui Qianju and his group of people. In an instant, the atmosphere had turned into a state of mutual hostility, with a huge battle appearing to erupt at any given moment. Wen Qingxian. Shui Qianju muttered as he darkly looked towards Wen Qingxian. Having also participated in the Great Spiritual Academy tournament, they naturally weren't unfamiliar towards this group that had placed first on the rankings. However, they never imagined that she and her group would actually mingle together with Mu Chen and his group. Precisely, replied Wen Qingxian with a soul-stirring smile, yet no sudden fluctuations were present in those haughty and beautiful phoenix-like eyes of hers as she stared indifferently towards Shui Qianju. HMPH. Rays of brilliance sparkled within Shui Qianju's eyes as he gave a cold snort. With Wen Qingxian and her group being together with Mu Chen and Luo Li's, their lineup made it such that even he had no choice but to treat them with caution. If they were to truly start a fight, even if they were able to win in the end, they might have to pay an exceedingly high price. This was clearly something that Shui Qianju hadn't wished for. I'll temporarily let you all go this time. However, do you all still want to go into the Divine Wood Mountain with such appearances? Never mind. I'll settle this debt with you all while in the Divine Wood Palace's remnant, said Shui Qianju with a sneer as he darkly stared towards Mu Chen. At that time, I'll properly teach you that there's always a taller mountain present. Let's go. As his voice rang out, he waved his hands and left. A chilling glint flashed within Mu Chen's eyes as he sent a palm patting out, instantly sending a black and white current of spiritual energy sweeping out that rumbled straight towards Shui Qianju. Clearly, he did not wish for that fellow to be able to smoothly retreat away like that. Although dealing with you all will be somewhat troublesome, if I want to leave, you can't do anything about it. Faced against Mu Chen's goal of obstructing him, a ridiculing smile appeared on Shui Qianju's face as he clapped his hands together. In the next instant, a bloody light radiated from him, before smashing violently against the incoming current of spiritual energy. Bang! At the instant of impact, their bodies unexpectedly exploded apart, causing a bloody mist to perfuse out. As this happened, their figures mysteriously disappeared into thin air. Seeing this, Mu Chen's eye faintly narrowed. As the bloody light exploded apart, he could faintly discern the 10 clumps of bloody light sparkling. Clearly, that fellow had used some kind of special technique to cause Mu Chen to be unable to chase after them. Although that Shui Qiandu's loathsome, he's truly worthy of being the prince of the Blood God clan. With such a mysterious technique, wanting to obstruct him truly was an extremely hard matter to accomplish. He's still going to the Divine Wood Palace's remnant. Mu Chen muttered in his heart as a chilling glint gushed from his eyes. He really did have some murderous intent appearing in his head towards that Shui Qiandu. Being a person of the Blood God clan, the latter would definitely bring trouble to Luo Li. Therefore, if he had the opportunity, Mu Chen wanted to let him remain forever within the fragments of this shattered continent. The light of black lightning on the surface of Mu Chen's body rapidly weakened, before dissipating away as he shot back to his group. That's the Blood God clan's blood escape technique. It's extremely formidable at disengaging and escaping. However, as of now, there's no need for us to start a big fight by taking action against them. There will be opportunities to do so in the future. As the frosty expression on Luo Li's exquisite face dissipated away, she sent a faint smile towards Mu Chen as she spoke to him. Hearing that, Mu Chen nodded his head. Looking towards the place where Shui Qiandu and his people had disappeared at, he deeply pondered a while, before saying, "Since they wanted to catch you, let's not let them return back home." Faint feelings of sweetness instantly erupted in Luo Li's heart upon hearing his words. Brother Mu Chen so overbearing," said Pina and Lur with a giggle. "What's the use of being overbearing? We've yet to reach the Divine Wood Mountain, and we've one more thorny opponent to deal with as a result." Shooting a slanted glare towards Mu Chen, Wen Qingxian spoke in a lazy manner. "However, you didn't disappoint too much by at least possessing a bit of courage. If you let a girl get bullied and still hide behind her, what's the use in calling you a man?" Towards her alternative degradatory and praising comments, Mu Chen could only give a helpless laugh in response. Compared to Shui Qiandu, he clearly felt a greater headache towards the person before him now. Hearing those words from Wen Qingxian, Luo Li gave a laugh before saying, although Shui Qiandu's somewhat thorny, if he truly wanted to take action, he would have to deal with the consequences. Seeing that Luo Li was helping Mu Chen, Wen Qingguan could not help flinging her little red lips aside. Waving her hands, she said, "We're about to reach the transaction base. Since we don't know how many crouching tigers and hidden dragons are present there, let's seize this moment to enter it and prepare ourselves properly. There will definitely be huge fights awaiting us within the ancient remnant of the Divine Wood Palace." Hearing her words, Mu Chen nodded his head in agreement. Indeed, as what Wen Qingxian had said, they had only more thorny opponents to deal with before even reaching the Divine Wood Mountain. God knows how many would there be when they arrived there. From the looks of it, there would definitely be a truly huge fight taking place then. Similarly, Mu Chen was extremely curious about one point. Exactly how many of the hidden experts that were concealed in the darkness would reveal themselves there. Everyone was clear about the importance of the genuine remnant of the Divine Wood Palace. Therefore, those powerful groups that have concealed themselves to bide time would definitely reveal themselves in succession within there. This time, it would definitely be extremely spectacular. In fact, this might shake up the entire situation of the Great Spiritual Academy tournament. Moving their bodies once again, Mu Chen shot across the sky. In the distant plains, the little town was already faintly visible. Countless figures shot over from all directions, finally landing within this little town, causing the surrounding area to appear exceedingly noisy and lively. Standing at the outskirts of the transaction base and taking in the atmosphere present within the little town, Mu Chen and the others could not help sighing in admiration. Upon their entrance to the Great Spiritual Academy tournament, it was clearly extremely rare for them to see so many groups converging in such a peaceful manner together. That's because any other place with that many groups appearing and gathering together would definitely be a place where numerous intense fights and battles would have taken place. "Let's go." Seemingly appearing somewhat familiar with this place, Wen Qingxian gave a wave with her jade-like hand as she took the lead and walked forward, with Mu Chen and the rest hastily following suit. Upon entering the transaction base, the noise and clatter instantly lunged towards them. Clearly appearing to be constructed not long ago, the numerous limestone streets appeared exceedingly wide and spacious, merely that it was filled with numerous figures bustling with activity. Following Wen Qingxian as they walked into the little town, Mu Chen and the rest could immediately feel the clamoring reduce by quite a bit as countless gazes shot over towards their direction. Each of those gazes were completely filled with shock and curiosity, as well as drool. Naturally, the absolute majority of those reactions were due to Wen Qingxian, as well as Luo Li. The fame of Wen Qingxian had already long been circulated within the Great Spiritual Academy tournament, with everyone being clear how strong the group on the first of the rankings were, as well as how beautiful their female captain was. However, what caused them to be astonished was that there was actually yet another girl that was not one bit inferior, when compared to her. Standing quietly at her side, Luo Li held her Luo God sword in her hand, with her exquisitely beautiful and porcelainsk face appearing calm and elegant. Clearly, she had an entirely different character compared to Wen Qingxian. Upon entering the little town, she did not pay much attention to the sideways as her glass-like pupils only gave a brief swept. Compared to her, Wen Qingxian was different. At this moment, her beautiful face that could similarly cause the downfall of countries was covered in a soul-stirringly beautiful smile, causing people to be unable to peel their eyes from her. However, although her smile was soul-stirring, her phoenix-like eyes were filled with haughtiness and arrogance. As her gaze indifferently swept across the bodies of a few seemingly outstanding youths, it quickly moved away with the same indifference, instantly causing the youths that were quietly pumping up their chests to deflate and be filled with dejection. Compared to Luo Li, Wen Qingxian clearly possessed a temperament that was exceedingly hard to tame. However, being the way males are, the harder it was to obtain, the greater they would chase after the unattainable. Seeing the transaction base that had turned somewhat quiet, before noticing the gazes of countless people sweeping across Luo Li's body, Mu Chen instantly flung his mouth in unhappiness. While he was feeling unhappy, Luo Li suddenly gave a faint smile, before unexpectedly taking the initiative to extend her jade-like hand to hold onto Mu Chen's, all while her lovable face turned slightly red. Whoosh! As Luo Li held Mu Chen's hand, one could faintly hear a clamoring wave ringing out, with quite a few gazes locking onto Mu Chen, with some of them containing unconcealable hostility and envy. Mu Chen was also slightly shocked and astonished. Knowing Luo Li's character, other than his occasional hoodlum teasing while they were alone, where she would blush and allow him to do so, she was exceedingly reserved in front of other people. Such an initiative to hold his hand was clearly something that was exceedingly rare. "This is just a little reward," said Luo Li with a slight blush on her lovable face as she shot a look towards Mu Chen. Hearing that, Mu Chen could not help letting a smile crack open from his mouth. Naturally, he knew that what Luo Li was saying was that he had seemingly done quite a good job in his performance towards Shui Qianju earlier. Wen Qingxian took half a step forward. However, upon hearing the clamoring coming from the surroundings, she cast a look from the corner of her eye and immediately knew what had happened. This caused her to give a soft snort within her heart, turning her beautiful eyes around, while a slight twitch appeared on her tiny rosy lips. Due to his point of view, Mu Chen just so happened to notice the art curling up from the corner of Wen Qingxuan's mouth, causing a not-too-good feeling to rise within his heart. However, before he could respond to it, Wen Qingxian had quickly turned around, while a soul-stirring smile appeared on her beautiful face that would cause the downfall of countries. However, at this moment, a somewhat evil intent seemed to appear within her eyes as she unexpectedly extended her jade-like hand out, grabbing onto Mu Chen's wrist before walking straight into the transaction base. Thereafter, in that instant, the clamoring noises originally still present within the transaction base instantly turned deathly silent. Cold beads of sweat instantly poured from Mu Chen's back in response. If those gazes that had shot over before were filled with hostility and envy, they were now filled with genuine killing intent. "I've been made a fool of." The corner of Mu Chen's mouth slightly twitched as he thought, this Wen Qingxuan simple a demonis. As Mu Chen and the others walked straight into the transaction base, the waves of clamoring noises coming from the sides had all quietly turned silent. Quite a few people opening their eyes wide at the teeth-clenching scene before them. With such fame attached to her name, and with everyone knowing how hard it was to tame this arrogant phoenix, they had unexpectedly seen her taking the initiative to hold onto the wrist of a young male. This scene caused countless people to open their eyes wide and trip down while unconcealable envy and jealousy uncontrollably erupted from their hearts. Exactly where did this fellow come from to actually garner the favor of Wen Qingxian? Those gazes appeared as if they wanted to kill someone. Finally, unable to endure the murderous-like gazes coming from everyone, Mu Chen grasped onto Wen Qingxuan's beautiful and jade-like small hands as he hastily walked towards a small alley nearby. Upon hiding in the alley, Wen Qingxian hastily flung her little hand from Mu Chen's grip, while opening her eyes wide to glare at him while shouting, "What are you doing?" An angry expression had appeared on her face as she could not help rubbing her wrist. She had a level of fastidiousness and extreme dislike people of the opposite sex coming into contact with her body. Even in her earlier action towards Mu Chen, she had quietly slipped her sleeve in between the hand she used to grab onto his sleeve. Who would have guessed that Mu Chen would actually dare to grab hold onto her? If not for Luo Li being by their side, she might not have been able to endure it and take action against Mu Chen. "I've yet to ask you what the hell you are doing. Could you get Luo Li and my approval at the very least before pulling the stunt you did earlier?" said Mu Chen as he flung his mouth aside. "You've clearly taken advantage of me," replied Wen Qingxian somewhat angrily. "This fellow still tries to proclaim his innocence after taking advantage of me." "Thank you, but I'm not one bit interested in enjoying such an advantage," replied Mu Chen unhappily, before leading Luo Li towards the deeper parts of the transaction base. Luo Li sent a helpless shrug towards the somewhat frustrated Wen Qingxian. Although she was also somewhat astonished by Wen Qingxuan's actions, she clearly didn't voice it out. From the looks of it, Wen Qingxian seemed to not have the favorable impression that some other girls would have towards him. Similarly too, Mu Chen seemed to only treat her as a collaborating compatriot. Looking at the backs of the two, Wen Qingxian could not help stomping her feet and clenching her teeth. Pinna, Le, and the rest of her team standing beside her quietly turned their gazes away, all of them not daring to provoke the current Wen Qingxian. Earlier, upon seeing Wen Qingxian actually extending her hand to hold onto Mu Chen's wrist, their hearts were completely filled with shock and astonishment. That's because all of them had a deep understanding of the latter. Ever since the start of the Great Spiritual Academy tournament, they had seen some powerful groups that have attempted to approach them. However, Wen Qingxian always maintained a certain degree of distance from those similarly outstanding youths. Although the smiles she wore appeared soul-stirringly sweet and charming, there was a resistance that tossed people thousands of miles away present within the depths of her eyes. However, right before their eyes, Wen Qingxian, with her rather great dislike for the opposite sex, had unexpectedly took the initiative to hold the wrist of a youth of the opposite sex. How could they not be shocked by it? "You better remember this," said Wen Qingxian hatefully, before quickly following behind the two. Having learnt a lesson from her previous actions, Wen Qingxian did not dare to pull of the same stunt again. On the contrary, she always stood at least 3 steps away from him, with a slightly frustrated feeling clearly present within her heart, despite not having any expression showing on her beautiful face. Nevertheless, Mu Chen didn't care about her, with his gaze curiously scanning around his surroundings. Simple shops were constructed on the 2 sides of the spacious limestone alleys. With people walking to and fro, the atmosphere present was rather lively. In such a transaction point, the majority of the shops here haven't been opened for a long time. After all, such a place was a necessity for every group participating in the Great Spiritual Academy tournament. There were numerous large and small ancient remnants present within this fragment of the shattered continent, with quite a few containing treasures within. Although those remnants were concealed extremely well, they were still found by people in the end. Nevertheless, not all of the treasures obtained from those places would be needed by one. Therefore, this had resulted in such a transaction base popping up. At this place, they were able to bring all of their unwanted treasures here to exchange for stuff they needed. Strolling around, Mu Chen and the others finally came to a stop after walking for a dozen minutes as a rather gigantic building appeared before their eyes. This was considered the largest construction within the transaction base, with the atmosphere within appearing exceedingly exuberant. There were various large and small shops present within the building, with dazzling lineups made of various items displayed within every one of them. Spiritual light sparkled around as unique spiritual energy fluctuations radiated from them. All of those items gave off an ancient flavor, clearly indicative of them being hauled out from those ancient remnants present within this shattered continent. Brimming with interest, Mu Chen looked and gazed around. Wen Qingxian had also walked into it as her gaze fluttered across the shops present in search for the spiritual pills that she needed. There were quite a few spiritual pills present here, with all of them giving off sweet fragrances, causing people to be unable to resist casting drooling gazes over at them. Nevertheless, those spiritual pills were considered as exceedingly extravagant items to them. Additionally, most of them were traded using the bartering method. Towards stuff like spiritual pills, the majority of the people selling were either masquerading their understanding towards them or had completely no understanding towards the pills they were selling, which lead to people being extremely easily conned towards buying falsified or counterfeit items. Therefore, the number of people that were able to afford the pills were extremely few. Scanning her beautiful eyes across those spiritual chi-filled jade bottles, Wen Qingxian was able to clearly see the origins of the medicines present within. However, what made Mu Chen feel some doubt was due to Wen Qingxuan's actions. Not only did she not search for those spiritual pills that were emitting dense spiritual qi, she had locked her gaze towards those seemingly ordinary-looking spiritual pills. Finally, Wen Qingxuan's gaze rested on a somewhat broken jade bottle. With a dull yellow color, it showed the vestiges of time that have occurred to it. This is a bottle of spiritual pills I've found from a remnant. After trying it, it has a rather good effect towards spiritual energy recovery. The one selling this bottle of spiritual pills was a skinny youth, who hastily went forward to introduce them upon seeing Wen Qingxuan's gaze shooting over. Extending her hand towards the jade bottle, Wen Qingxian retrieved a spiritual pill from within. Appearing in a dark greenish splendor, the spiritual pill appeared as spherical as a dragon's eye. However, the density of spiritual qi coming from it seemed to not be comparable to those previous few spiritual pills that she had laid her gaze on. "What's the price of these?" asked Wen Qingxian, appearing to be interested in those spiritual pills. "2 high-grade spiritual items, 1 offensive and 1 defensive," replied the skinny youth immediately. Hearing the youth's reply, Mu Chen immediately raised his eyebrows slightly as he thought, what a really high price. There's merely 5 spiritual pills present within this jade bottle. However, that fellow had actually wanted 2 high-grade spiritual items for it. Things like spiritual pills truly are extravagant. Hesitating for a while, Wen Qingxian decisively nodded her head while waving her hand towards the quiet young girl by the name of Nya. With a wave of her hand, 2 rays of light shot out from Nya, flying straight towards the skinny youth. Hastily receiving them, the skinny youth carefully examined them before elation subsequently gushed from his face. Without saying a single word more, Wen Qingxian grabbed the jade bottle, turned around and walked off. "Those 5 spiritual pills are actually worth that price?" Mu Chen could not help asking. Although he wasn't the spendthrift one, if those 2 high-grade spiritual items were equipped to Xu Huang and the other 2, they would be able to increase their strength by quite a bit. "It can even increase the strength of one's fleshly body," said Mu Chen in shock. However, wanting to obtain such an effect would require a special way of consumption. That would be consuming it with another type of spiritual pill, something that the fellow that sold to me was completely unaware about. Wen Qingxuan's understanding towards spiritual pills was clearly much deeper than Mu Chen's. With a clench of her hand, 2 spherical spiritual pills appeared in her hand. In addition, there's a lotus spiritual brand present on these spiritual pills. That's the insignia of the Pill God clan. It also means that this bottle of spiritual pills came from the Pill God clan. Pill God clan? Mu Chen gawked once more. "Ignorance," replied Wen Qingxian indifferently. "Within the Great Thousand Worlds, there are 3 places that produce spiritual pills of the highest grade, with the Pill God clan being one of them. The other 2 are the ancient Myriad Flower Plains and the Endless Fire Territory. The former 2 possessed a background spanning back countless of years, with the Endless Fire Territory popping up later. The great sir that came from the lower plains, the Flame Emperor, has a unique style in his pill refining technique, resulting in the spiritual pills refined by him being things that sovereign realm experts dream of having, but are unable to do so. This is also one of the main reasons why the Endless Fire Territory is able to becoming one of the regional overlords of the Great Thousand Worlds within such a short span of time. That Flame Emperor is truly formidable," said Mu Chen while sighing in admiration. Shooting a look at him, a faint arc curled up the corner of Wen Qingxuan's red lips, before speaking out, "Although I've yet to see the Flame Emperor in person, I've met with his daughter. Do you want me to help introduce her to you in the future?" Hearing that, Mu Chen immediately felt awkward. At this moment, the only choice he could do was to choose to disregard her words. With a flick of her jade-like finger, 2 green spiritual pills shot towards Mu Chen and Luo Li, sending the two a sweet smile. She said, "Don't reject me. After entering the Divine Wood Mountain, there would be quite a few huge fights. The stronger the two of you are, the greater our chances on obtaining the treasures." Hearing that, Luo Li hesitated a while, before nodding her head with a faint smile while replying, "Thanks, Qingxian." Hearing how Luo Li had addressed her, the smile present on Wen Qingxuan's exquisite face instantly grew warmer. Compared with how she treated Mu Chen, this was a completely different appearance. Accepting the spiritual pill, Mu Chen shook his head in helplessness. People who obtain benefits have weak mouths towards their benefactor. "Let's go. We've already obtained the spiritual pills." Waving her hand towards everyone, Wen Qingxian got ready to leave this place. Hearing that, Mu Chen nodded his head in agreement. However, just as he shifted his feet, something suddenly caught his eye, causing him to turn his head around. Looking over to the depths of the building, he could sense unique fluctuations radiating from there. Showing a gesture towards Wen Qingxian and the rest, he turned around and quickly headed over towards the building's depths. The building was spacious with a wooden stage standing in the deepest region with the surroundings filled with groups of people as noise constantly came. That area was a small-scale transaction stage. Generally speaking, those who were able to come here to do trades all possessed decent amounts of power. Mu Chen was strolling around the transaction stage as his gaze was fixed on the stage. There stood a youth, holding onto a bronze scroll. The scroll was in a sword shape as it was filled with traces of time. At the same time, the peculiar ripple that was being emitted from the scroll was startling. "What is that?" When Qingxian and Luo Li spoke up with their questions of doubt as they followed up looking at the bronze scroll. "It should be a spiritual array diagram," Mu Chen answered. The ripple that was being emitted from the bronze scroll was the reason why he halted his steps and turned around. After all, he had another identity, a spiritual array master. Therefore, his interest was piqued by the spiritual array diagram. When Qingxian took a glance at Mu Chen and fell into her thoughts. "Ladies and gentlemen, as you have already guessed, the scroll in my hand is indeed a spiritual array diagram." At this moment, that youth raised the scroll in his hand as his robust voice resounded. "This spiritual array diagram should be a rank 5 spiritual array. However, this is a combination diagram." Combination diagram. When that statement was made, a soft commotion resounded from the surroundings. Many of those that were interested in it slightly focused their attention as they directed their gazes towards the scroll in the youth's hand. Spiritual array masters are classified in ranks. Once one reaches the level of rank 5 spiritual array master, they would be unpredictable. One further step and they would become spiritual array grandmaster. Generally speaking, spiritual array grandmasters were existences that could compete with sovereign realm experts. Henceforth, there were huge differences between the weaker and stronger rank 5 spiritual array masters. Few powerful rank 5 spiritual array masters could even cause fear for experts that had already went through their spiritual energy disaster or even spirit disaster. At the same time, there were also some rank 5 spiritual array masters that could have trouble dealing with an expert that had already gone through their human body disaster. There were all sorts of reasons for this difference. The main difference would be dependent on the insight one had towards spiritual arrays, the second spiritual array diagram. When some powerful rank 5 spiritual array diagram falls into the hands of a powerful rank 5 spiritual array master, the power unleashed would be extremely fearsome. Generally speaking, those powerful spiritual array diagrams also had an alternate name to them, combination diagrams. They were much more complicated compared to ordinary spiritual array diagrams that ordinary spiritual array masters could not control them, not to even mention about successfully laying it out. Naturally, once such diagrams were successfully laid out, the might would also be astonishing. So it is a combination diagram. Mu Chen muttered to himself as his black pupils lit up. As expected, his interest had already been lured by the combination diagram. After he had entered into the Great Spiritual Academy tournament, he had not revealed his spiritual array master identity. It was not that he did not wish to use spiritual arrays, it was because there wasn't any suitable spiritual array diagram for him. After all, the opponents that he encountered at his level were all those that were already in the 3 sovereign disasters. Although the spiritual arrays that he had cultivated in the past were not too weak, he was also not able to fully display their full potential. Let's take the Butchering Demonic Lotus spiritual array as an example. With his current accomplishment in the spiritual array field, he had fully studied the spiritual array diagram. That spiritual array diagram could also be considered as a combination diagram. Its complete form should be 4 lotuses. However, with his current strength, he could only unleash it at 2 lotuses. The 3 lotus Butchering Demonic Lotus spiritual array was too powerful, and it would require him to be at the level of spiritual array Grandmaster in order to execute it. Therefore, the current him required a spiritual array that he could fully unleash its potential. Without a doubt, this rank 5 combination diagram was perfect for the current Mu Chen. However, such a combination diagram was not easy to find. However, his luck had allowed him to encounter one before his eyes at this moment. The atmosphere around the transaction stage was heated up at this moment. One could tell that there was quite a group of people that were interested in it. From their reactions, one could tell that those groups had spiritual array masters in their team. However, once they communicated with the spiritual array masters in their team, quite a number of them had disappointment in their eyes. Clearly, the spiritual array masters in their teams had told them that the rank 5 combination diagram was too complicated for them. The name of this spiritual array diagram is called Lesser Thousand Spiritual Array. I suppose everyone knows the power of a combination diagram at this level. This was found by me in a ruin. I would suggest those spiritual array masters that are not powerful enough to give up on it. The youth smiled as he continued to hold onto the bronze scroll. His words caused much disdain. However, no one retorted him, as they all knew that the might of such a combination spiritual array could rival a rank 6 spiritual array of sovereign realm experts. Although such a spiritual array was extremely complicated, the strength was excellent. I'm auctioning this spiritual array diagram in this transaction stage. All I'm asking for is 2,500 points. When he finished his speech, it attracted a second wave of uproar to the point that even Mu Chen had his brow slightly frowned. Such a price was not low at this point for them. After all, they only possessed 3,700 points, whereas the price of it was 2,500. It was impossible for ordinary teams to afford such a price. Everyone started talking amongst themselves around the transaction stage, with many people shaking their heads inwardly and gave up on it. Although the spiritual array diagram was powerful, the requirement was too demanding. Even if they had managed to obtain it, it was also hard for them to successfully execute it. Mu Chen pondered for a brief moment before looking at his team. He really was tempted by it. However, the points belonged to the team, so he could not spend it alone. I have no objections, Luo Li smiled. You are the captain, you make the decision. Xu Huang and the other 2 said as they smiled. Thanks. Mu Chen nodded his head. He no longer hesitated and declared, 2,600. His voice broke the discussion of others as many startled gazes were directed at him. After they had taken a good look at Mu Chen, they started to discuss again. What team is this? From their academy emblem, it should be the Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy. Oh? Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy? Could it be the team of the Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy that had managed to enter the top 16? It should be them. Otherwise, how could they afford too many points? In the discussions, many people understood the identity of Mu Chen's team, and their gazes turned a little more heavy. The youth that was on the transaction stage threw an astonished gaze as he shouted out loud, the team from the Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy bids 2,600 points. Is there any higher bids? There were no responses to his question. Many teams could only shrug their shoulders in helplessness. The price was already very high, not to mention that they did not have the capability to lay out such a complicated spiritual array. Therefore, there was no need to exchange such an item with the points that they had gathered with so much effort. The youth on the stage helplessly smiled from the response. Looks like his intention to earn a big sum had fallen. However, at least he had gotten a high price for it. Since there was no one else bidding, then this scroll will belong to the team from the Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy. He waved his hand as he looked at Mu Chen and smiled, respected. 3,000. An indifferent voice rang out, which caused that youth to halt his voice. It had also caused many people to raise their heads as they looked at the direction that the voice was coming from. Mu Chen also knitted his brows together as he raised his head. On the second level of the building, there were some shadows standing in the darkness. Standing at the front, there were two people leaning against the pillar. They were smiling as they looked at Mu Chen and his group. The one on the left had a skinny body with blonde hair. He had a charming appearance with a smile hanging on his lips. Sharpness was being emitted from his pair of eyes. On the right, it was a robust man whose figure was comparable to a bear. His bare arms were filled with scars, emitting dense bloodlust. The two of them were looking at Mu Chen, who was on the first floor. When their gazes met, there was a chill in there circulating between their gazes. When everyone around the stage saw those two figures, they were startled for a brief moment. They could not help twitching their brows. Those two fellows actually showed themselves. Furthermore, it seems they were aiming at the team from the Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy. Looks like there's a show for them to watch. This team from the Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy wasn't your ordinary group. Likewise, those two weren't ordinary as well. Recently, there were many powerful teams that fell by their hands. Mu Chen's brows wrinkled together as he could sense the peculiar ripple from the two of them. Clearly, the two of them were very powerful. However, he had never seen them before, nor is there any academy emblem on them. But from their eyes, those two didn't seem to be too friendly to them. Those two are the leaders of the Academy Alliance. Violet Halberd, Qin Feng and Bear King, Liu Xiu. It appears that the two of them are coming for you. When Qingxuan's jade-like fingers fiddled with her hair as she removed the doubt for Mu Chen. Mu Chen's eyes slightly narrowed. The Academy Alliance? That alliance that had sent someone to snatch the divine quota from him earlier? This bunch of people were really pestering them. Mu Chen helplessly flung his mouth as a chill began to circulate in his black pupils. This episode ends here. Thank you for watching.